welcome back to Bookish Brits. My name is Michelle and I'm here today to talk to you about some of my book crushes in 2014. Now, I've read quite a few books this year and one of my favorite things about reading is falling in love. I fall in love so many times when I'm reading books, especially YA books, and I thought that I would use today's video to share with you 6 of my fictional crushes that I've come across while reading this year. Now, first on my list is Dristan from Shadow Play by Laura Lamb. I know I really love Dristan, and I loved him from Pantomime, and then even more so when I read Shadow Play earlier this year. I just think that he is such a lovely character, and I love that there are so many secrets and everything that he keeps, but it just... I think part of the reason that I love him so much is because the feelings that are there between Micah Gray, another favourite character of mine, and Dristan, just they feel so intense, and it's so hard for me not to be consumed by all of these intense feelings between these two characters. So I do have a crush on Dristan. I'll be the first to admit it. Crush number 2 is all of the Merrick brothers, and I say all of them because I've only read the first book in the Elemental series, Storm by Brigid Camarera, but I'm so looking forward to reading more of these books when they're published here in the UK later this year. What I loved about this book is that while the main focus is on Becca and Chris, I think the youngest, is it the youngest Merrick brother? At the same time you have all of this detail and dialogue and relationships between both Becca and Chris with all of the Merrick brothers, and I think there was just enough information about the other brothers that has me incredibly intrigued, and I think that as I go along in the series I will fall in love with each of them in turn. Crush number 3 is Kieran McKay from The Falconer by Elizabeth May. I read this book earlier this year and honestly I haven't stopped raving about this book since I read it. I'm so looking forward to the sequel, and part of that is down to how much I love the main character and all of the other secondary characters and just the setting and the steampunk element. But another main reason that I'm really excited to continue with this series is how much I love Kieran McKay. He's not like a traditional sort of love interest that you'd normally see. He has this element of being this like badass fairy who is capable of doing really horrific things, but he also is helping out our main character, and I think really complicated characters like Kieran are my favourite, where, you know, that boundary between sort of good and bad and everything is so muddled up that it's hard to tell really which side they're on, and I love Kieran. Crush number 4 is Dean from the Naturals series by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I adore Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I really like how much she puts psychology into the young adult books that she writes. Her trilogy about werewolves were some of my favourite, and I knew as soon as I heard the first information about the Natural series I knew that I would love it as well because it's so focused on psychology. And earlier in the year I read Killer Instinct, which is the second book in the Naturals series. And the main character in the story, I think her name is Cassie, sort of has feelings for 2 of the other male characters in the book, and in this particular story she does end up making a decision. And it was between one male character who's very funny and charming and easygoing, and the other is kind of a dark, brooding character who is a little bit distant and aloof. And why is it that I really like these distant, aloof, sort of sulky characters? Normally I would prefer like the funny, charming, nice guy, and definitely in this series I choose Dean, who is darker and mysterious. I really quite fancy him in this series, and if you haven't read it, I do really recommend this series. Crush number 5 is Shinobu from the Name of the Blade trilogy by Zoe Marriott, and this year I read Darkness Hidden, which is the second book in the trilogy, and I really adore Zoe Marriott's writing. I've really loved almost everything that I've read by her, and one of my favorite elements of her storytelling, apart from like the really great fantasy world building, is her relationships. She has really great friendships and love interests, and everything always feels really complicated and emotional, and that is exactly how I feel about the main character's relationship with Shinobu. So Shinobu is this Japanese boy who has been trapped inside a sword for hundreds of years, and through Mio, the main character's dealings with this sword, she unleashes him into the world, and it's a little bit of a strange occurrence, like what a weird situation to be in, but I absolutely adore it, and I really love Shinobu's character. I love his honor and his sort of like absolute loyalty and intensity when it comes to Mio. I find that it's really captivating to see his feelings for her, and for there to be no games or anything at all, as well as no expectations. My last crush is Rowan from Trial by Fire by Josephine Angelini, and it has been a long time since I've read a book that has excited me as much as Trial by Fire. I read it, and even though it's quite a chunky book, I flew right through its pages. I wanted to know more about everything, about the characters, the world, and especially this relationship that the main character has with Rowan, this boy from an alternate world. Oh, swoon for all 6 of these boys. Please do let me know who you've been crushing on in 2014. Have you read any of the books that I've mentioned in this video? Let me know down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.